Yeah, that's why I entitled my book The Burdens of a Dream, because every dream has a price to pay. The question is, are you able to bear the burden of that dream? Because the bigger the dream, the bigger the burden. And there's nothing wrong with having big dreams, because you need to have something to go after. You just have to be intelligent enough to not go for like the whole enchilada up front. You have to break it down into steps.
Hey, Champion Nation. My name is Kayshawn Cooper, and I am the host of the Champion Nation podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, can you please do me a favor? It would mean so much to me if you can scroll down and subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes. Also, if you can hit that little like button, comment below. Your comments mean so much to me and our other viewers and listeners. Now let's jump into today's episode.
Hey, Champion Nation, it is Kayshawn Cooper, your host of the Champion Nation podcast. I am excited. Oh my gosh. I am excited to have this conversation here today. I'm in Atlanta and Craig, he's going to tell us where he's at, but the weather is so rainy, cold. Anything in the 50s and 60s is cold to me after I moved from Brooklyn. But here's the deal. I am inside. I am tucked away. The heat is on, but I could not wait to have this conversation with none other than Craig Chavis Jr. Man, this guy, he is he's an author. He's a speaker. He's a serial entrepreneur. I mean, I cannot wait to have these conversations. So here's a little funny fact for me. I do very little investigation on the people that join the show. So when you hear it, that's the very first time I'm hearing it as well. So I am excited to have Craig on the show. What's up, Craig? How you doing, sir?
Hey, brother Kayshawn. I am happy, healthy, and excited to be collaborating with you on your amazing podcast. Like, it's super motivational. I also love reading your weekly newsletters, and they truly provide a ton of value. So excited to chop it up with you.
I couldn't wait for this time to sit down and chop it up with you as well. So, Craig, let's jump straight into it. I've been talking too long already. What is it that you do? Tell us about who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Well, first of all, I would define myself as a modern Renaissance man. And I say this because from my childhood, I've always been interested in a multitude of things. So currently I wear hats, like you said, as being an author, a serial entrepreneur, a public speaker. But within this entrepreneurial path, I've crossed so many different verticals as a coach, as a consultant, somebody who's owned a distillery, who started off as a DJ, who exited from a blockchain tech company. But it basically all began, in my childhood, because I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I grew up with a severe speech impediment. So that means I stuttered a lot. So to overcome that difficulty, I had to do Hooked on Phonics through the 7th grade. And on top of that, what really helped me to begin to speak and alleviate my stutter was listening to music. And so I fell in love with music. Originally, it was jazz, and then I got into house music and later hip hop. And this transformed into my first business at the age of 15, where I started out on MySpace. I'm dating myself, as DJ Absolute Craig. And I was actually pretty popular here in the Midwest, and I started off DJing in teen clubs. At the same time of being an entrepreneur, I was also a really good athlete. Got a Division I football scholarship that took me down to Birmingham, Alabama, where I was playing football at Sanford University. And I had the talent, and I thought I could make it to the NFL, but my sophomore year, I suffered a neck injury, and it ended my playing career. And I was 2 seconds away from dropping out. But my Spanish professor convinced me to study abroad in Costa Rica, and that completely changed my life. And I got exposure to a new country, a new language, but also to this possibility of living and working abroad. I wound up switching my major to entrepreneurship. I double minored in Spanish and international business, studied in Spain for a year. And once I graduated, I realized that Alabama didn't have much prospectus for me. So I took my folks' advice, went and got my MBA. And after I graduated, I was pretty sure I was going to go to Wall Street or Silicon Valley. None of those two things happened, but I got an invitation to serve in the Peace Corps down in Peru as a community economic development specialist, which basically meant I was like a small business consultant and advisor. And I specialized really in import and exporting with a lot of like farming products, but I also taught entrepreneurship all across the country. And one day I went to a new college and I met a professor that was also a distiller. And after class, he taught me how to distill pisco, which is basically a Peruvian moonshine based from grapes. And I got really good at it. So during the day, I was this coach, advisor, teacher, but at night, I was a bootlegger. And after I finished my 27-month commitment to the Peace Corps, I legally immigrated back to Peru and opened up the country's first foreign-owned craft distillery. I got 4 products to market in less than 9 months. I started exporting to Chile, Mexico, and the US. And when I approached my landlord to extend my lease, she confessed she didn't own the property. It was her twin sister. And so I found out that I was illegally occupying my building because I signed a fraudulent contract. And so they did an about face and tried to renegotiate, but I couldn't afford the new contract. And I thought I was a failure, but I realized fail is just the first attempt in learning. From there, I got into blockchain, moved back to the US, started a company called Visa Jump. And we were the world's first visa processing software leveraged by blockchain. And I sold my technology to different embassies and consulates. And my co-founder was Vietnamese, and she moved back to Vietnam and wanted us to take our HQ to Saigon, but I couldn't make that work. So she bought me out. And a couple weeks later, my grandmother passed away. And that really put me into a tailspin because my grandmother really helped to raise me. So I moved back to Ohio, and this was right before the pandemic, and I was kind of lost. And so I wrote a book called Burdens of a Dream, which details that story that I just told you. And I didn't think much would happen, but the book wound up selling 5,000 copies across 6 continents. And from there, that got me into business coaching, consulting. I got several contracts where I'm still currently an advisor with multiple VC firms here in the US. And that's a little bit about me and my squiggly background and how I've come to be this person, this modern Renaissance man that you see today.
Wow, you know, the last 7 words that you said, that's me and my squiggly background. Wow. that indeed was squiggly. I wasn't expecting that. If I was watching a movie and your story was a movie, I would not have been able to predict which direction you were going in. Let's go back to the part where you know, you had the distillery in Peru. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you found out that the deal was no longer on the table, you couldn't renegotiate it, you said you felt like a failure. Take us down that journey, because none of us was there with you. What do you mean you felt like a failure?
Yes, because I had put everything on the line. I had my life savings in the business. I had raised about 6 figures in capital from angel investors through crowdfunding. So I had other people's money in the business. And I felt like everything was on me. And I had all this pressure and all these expectations that I felt I didn't live up to. But that was part of my downfall because I was under so much pressure and suffering so much burnout that I didn't build the right structure. I didn't build the right team. I was also the face of my business where I should have been the phantom behind it, because there's a lot of corruption down, you know, in Latin America and Peru. And I also didn't know that my lawyer illegally signed himself in as my power of attorney. So I was oblivious to a lot of the things that were happening. And so anytime I needed a new deal or a new contract, or I needed to purchase a large, you know, order of anything, I had to get this guy's permission to do so. So I was constantly bleeding dry, and I was never able to really get my 10 toes on the ground. And so when everything kind of blew up in my face, I just felt like, man, I just messed everything up. But it wasn't until I sat down almost, you know, 3 years later to capture that story on paper that I realized that I did damn good, especially under the conditions that I was under. And what I left out was that a month after I shut down my business, El Nino came through in Peru, and they suffered the worst flooding they had in over a century. So the roof on my building collapsed. There was no power for about 5 months, and the big Pan American highway was washed out. So it was really no way to get in or get out of like the beach town that I was living in. So I would have been sunken by one thing or another, but I was thankful I was able to get out with some profits in the bank account as well.
Yeah, I mean, you brought the first distillery to the country. I mean, come on, man, that's massive. I mean, no one I know that took a distillery to anywhere outside of the U.S. So, I'm a firm believer. Of course, now I'm sure you realize that, but you got to celebrate all the wins.
Yeah. Yes.
All the wins. Um, you have talked about your mantra or your entrepreneurial mantra being tested, or testing your mantra that time is gold and money is silver. Wow, I've never heard it like that before. How did this belief come about, and how did this shape the outcome of that situation?
Yeah, so that mantra was developed while serving in the Peace Corps. And they say the Peace Corps is the toughest job you ever love. And it's very cliche because it's true. Because when you join the Peace Corps, typically it's your first time going to this country. A lot of people don't speak the language nor know the culture. And oftentimes, like in my position, you're the first ever person to go to the village or the area that you're serving in. And you wind up having copious amounts of free time to figure stuff out. And that free time can either make you or break you. But what was really interesting is that you're living at the wage of people in your community. And so I was living below the poverty line. And wow, I was able to thrive with those minimal amount of resources because everything was covered. And what I came to understand, because I had so many other friends, going to Wall Street, go to Silicon Valley, and these people were making multiple six figures, but they're completely burnt out. They were wow, overworked and underpaid. But for me, I'm underpaid and at peace. And I realized that like money is something you can make at any moment in time, but you can never get your time back. And when you can use your time wisely, this is where you make the most money, because as an entrepreneur, you take a calculated risk to create something out of nothing and share it with the world. But all that money is made in your mind, because the body does what the mind thinks. And when you can use your time wisely to build your business model in your mind and you execute, and you learn while doing, by doing, all that time you took to really design this business pays off in the end. So when you use your time wisely, this is where you can make all the money that you'll ever make. But it starts in your mind first.
Wow, that's a 3-hour conversation. The mind. Some of our listeners are solo creators or solopreneurs, and as well as aspiring entrepreneurs. But based on your experience, what's the most common mistake solopreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs make when they're transforming their expertise into a sellable product, and how they could avoid this? I'm sure the mind is going to come into play here.
Yeah. Well, the first problem that they don't figure out is that they don't qualify themselves. I believe that there's a simple 4-step process to building a profitable and scalable business. Step 1 is founder market fit. Step 2 is solution market fit. Step 3 is product market fit. And then step 4 is solutions market fit. See, in the beginning, most people are automatically thinking about, okay, hey, what am I going to sell? I have this great idea. I'm going to sell this product or service. But they don't really figure out is that if that's a product that's going to alleviate a problem that people really have. But even before that, they don't qualify themselves to figure out, even if they're qualified to even solve this problem or to create this product or service. And for me, this all comes from my strategic background. Like, it's not 100% foolproof, but it's like if you're coming from a background where you've deeply experienced the problem that you're trying to solve, this qualifies you or puts you in a better position to create a real solution because you have a lived experience in that world. And so it starts with you. And if you can position yourself in the right way to get into the right market, to solve the right problem for the right people at the right time, this is what's going to position you to create something that people will gladly pay for. But if you have no experience in a market and you're just coming in out the blue, you're drastically increasing your rate of failure. Now, of course, we all have seen success stories where people have zero experience and they somehow stumble into an industry and they blow up. But that's the exception. That's not the rule. But if you can qualify yourself and you're like, okay, I have lived experience, I have some real true form of expertise here in this market, then that's going to position me for long-term success and reduce the likelihood of failure. Because especially from people who don't come from wealth, privilege, or access to capital, your whole objective is to de-risk the entrepreneurial journey. Because de facto, it's an extremely risky, painful, and arduous process. But if I can de-risk my chances of failure, let's say from 80% to 15%, now I've really increased the likelihood that I'm going to succeed. But it starts with me in knowing self.
Yeah, I like the 4-step process, and I like everything that you said as far as experience. But how does one gain experience? Let's say I have an idea to create this dog walking mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have an idea. I know no one wants to be outside walking their dogs. No one. No one. No, unless you take your dog to a dog park. But you got to get up at 5:30 in the morning to walk your dog. No one is happy about that. But if I wanted to do something, and this is not real, I don't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But if I wanted to do a dog walking mechanism, where do I begin? I don't know anything about, walking dogs other than I have one and I know I have a need. So if I know I have a need, other people have a need as well. So where do you get that experience?
Well, with that example, hopefully you're a dog owner in the first place. And if you're not, you should probably go to your local ASPCA, adopt Frodo or adopt Fluffy, start waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and experiencing the problems of the people that you're trying to understand. Because what people don't realize is that, like, when you're creating a business, you can't look at your business solely as the founder. You have to look at your business as the founder and also as a customer. Because it's really about customer validation. Because people pay for stuff that they want. And if you can't understand what people want, you're setting yourself up for failure. But when you can get some experience and kind of like understand your customer from their perspective, you're going to be building the business in their image while also bringing that founder's, perspective as well, because it's a dichotomy. Without any customers, you have no business. So
no, you have a hobby.
It's just a hobby. So if you can just get a little bit of experience and insight, because when you're doing your market research, it's based upon customer behavior. Like, what are they actually experiencing? What problems are they trying to solve? And how are they trying to solve that? And then oftentimes you begin to discover that, like, the solutions that are in the market are oftentimes inadequate. And this is the core thesis of innovation. It's me making a better solution than what already exists. And if I can do that the right way, then that's going to allow me to be differentiated in the market, and people are going to be more excited to try me out and exchange their hard-earned money for whatever my solution is.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. That's definitely interesting. Is there a specific time frame of experience that you would recommend? Is it a 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, 180 days, which is 6 months, my bad. My bad. 12 months. What is it that you would recommend?
See, it's not about the breadth of the experience. It's about the depth and the intensity of the experience, which is more important. Because people can be doing something for a long period of time and be oblivious to, like, the pains that they're experiencing. But if you can just step into a world and you're automatically getting that shock value, like, dag, like this is some painful stuff that my customers are experiencing, you're onto something. Because, like, people pay for two things. Like, they pay to run away from pain or to run toward a gain. And depending on how you market your business, you're either going to be a gain-driven marketer or a pain-driven marketer. But if you can tell that like people are suffering a major pain, this is probably the first area that you want to do your market research in. Because if the pain is extremely painful, people are trying to solve that ASAP. So if it's really intense, okay, this is going to increase your value because people don't spend their money for stuff that, is kind of like lukewarm. But if it's intense,
oh no, yeah,
here's some dollars.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It almost it goes from something I want to have to something I need to have, and I need to have it now.
Now,
you talked about the depth of experience, and just judging by your background, my friend, you don't need me to qualify you. You already know you are definitely experienced because you've launched several businesses in diverse markets such as Ghana, Costa Rica, Peru. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Nevertheless, what key principles did you or do you follow to build sustainable business models, especially in varying economic landscapes?
Well, the principles that I follow are like a pretty simple, but not easy process. So to me, there's 3 levels to business. Level 1 is the business of business. Level 2 is the business of my industry. And then level 3 is like my specific business model. So what I have mastered is the business of business because I'm really a businessman. Not only did I study business, but I've gone out into the real world in the streets and subjected myself to the forces of what business really is. So I understand operations, marketing, leadership, accounting, finance, product development, et cetera, et cetera. Like these are the core fundamentals of business because business is a science, whether people understand that or not. So on having that strong foundation, then I automatically know that like, okay, when I move into understanding a new business opportunity, I need to understand the business of that industry because every industry has its own nuances. Whether I'm in alcoholic beverage, that industry, very nuanced. Whether I'm in, entertainment, very, very nuanced. So if I'm not the subject matter expert, I need to hire somebody who is an expert in that industry. That really helps me to build my team. And then after I have the business of my industry really mapped out, then I go into understanding my business model because that business model needs to be special and differentiated from others in that industry. Because if I'm just copying like McDonald's verbatim, McDonald's has that business model trump tight. I need to figure out, okay, what's working for them, but then how can I twist this based upon myself and what the market wants to create my own unique business model. The reason why so many people fail is that they immediately run to figuring out, okay, what is my business model? But they lack the understanding of the business of their industry. And then more dangerous is that they don't understand the business of business.
Right.
And so people go about it backwards. And that's what sets them up for failure. You need to have those fundamentals. It's like somebody, who's never dribbled a basketball, trying to figure out how to do like a 360 dunk. It's like, okay, you can't even dribble. You can't even cross over. You can't even shoot a free throw. Like, why are you trying to do LeBron James level type stuff? And you're tripping over your feet on the court. Fundamentals first.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a double-edged sword with having lofty dreams? Do you think our dreams get us in trouble?
Yeah, that's why I entitled my book The Burdens of a Dream. Because every dream has a price to pay. The question is, are you able to bear the burden of that dream? Because the bigger the dream, the bigger the burden. And there's nothing wrong with having big dreams because you need to have something to go after. You just have to be intelligent enough to not go for like the whole enchilada up front. You have to break it down into steps and into phases and make sure that like any short-term step that you're taking is aligned with that long-term vision. because we're always going to get knocked off course. We're always going to get knocked off track. But it's about doing the little things consistently. There's a chapter in my book that's entitled Base Hits Outscore Home Runs.
Oh,
And
God,
I
all day
find that,
long,
like,
all day long, all day long, brother. Yes, I'm
yes.
sorry to interrupt you, but that's my philosophy as well. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's true. And for me, I was so used to just going for the big,
Yes.
550-foot home run.
Yes.
But I'm striking out. And it's like, let me just get a connect. Let me get a
That's
bunt.
it.
Let me get
A
on
bunt.
base.
Yes. Something.
Yeah. But if I keep getting those bunts, keep getting those bases, keeps getting those hits, like those are little dollars in my pockets. And they start stacking up. And then all of a sudden I got 3 people on base. And then I hit that connect. And it's not just a home run, it's a grand slam.
It's a grand slam.
Because I've been consistent and gone and did the little things really well consistently. And now I'm ready for that big opportunity.
Oh my gosh, brother, you're gonna make me scream, man, because those are the things that I really, really, really have learned to do. That's something that I had to condition my mind, that first base is just as or more important than a home run. It is. Getting on base is as important or more important, because, I would rather hit a ball 100 feet and at least make it to first base, and try to swinging, striking out, trying to get, like you said, 500 feet. And the other thing that I've learned is, if we all take care of the little things, the big things have no other choice but to take care of themselves. What do you think about that?
100% agree. You have to take care of like the minors, because if you don't, it actually rings true on the inverse. If you overlook the minor stuff, the major stuff will come and you won't be prepared for it. And when it comes, it's going to knock you out. And you can find this analogy in so many areas. Like if I got like dental, like I hate going to the dentist, but if I feel a little bit of pain, and I just let it go, just pop a pill, an Advil, some more pain pops them. I just keep popping pills. And then all of a sudden, when I go to the dentist a year later, they're like, oh yeah, you need a root canal. That's going to cost you $10,000. But if I would have just brushed my teeth, every day, flossed it, used the mouth rinse, just did the little things consistently, I wouldn't have suffered, that major L. Or in the inverse, if I would do those things correctly, I have great teeth for life. So you really have to pay attention, because like those pebbles built up over time will turn to a mountain, and that mountain will sink you if you're not careful.
It's so crazy. I used to say that the average person never trips up a mountain, but we will trip on a sidewalk. You ever tripped on a sidewalk? Like the average person. I'm not going mountain climbing, so I won't trip off a mountain. But like 3 weeks ago, I missed a step on the sidewalk and almost broke my doggone hip, man. That joint hurt so bad, but you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like to your point, it's the little things. It's the pebble in your shoe. You ever had a pebble in your shoe?
Yes.
God, is annoying. But definitely thanks for sharing that. I'm just gonna pause right here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this show, watching it, listening, Craig Chavis Jr., he's that guy. He is that guy for your business, man. I'm excited just listening to this. I just had to. I'm excited listening to you. I'm taking notes as you speaking, my friend. Innovation seems to be something that's near and dear to your heart. It's the cornerstone of your keynotes, for the most part, anyway. Can you explain the innovation mindset? What does that mean to you, and how can entrepreneurs constantly innovate and walk away from that stagnation mindset?
It begins with intellectual curiosity. Because, Keyshawn, I tell people, I moved around all the time, as a kid. I've lived in, I think, 6 different countries, 3 different continents. Every time I moved, I got a different cell phone number. Like, when my friend from high school was like, bro, you've had so many numbers, I've lost track, right? But where I'm getting to is, like, even though I've moved and had all these different changes in my life, I've had the same 6 best friends.
Wow.
And their names are who, what, when, where, why, and how. They're questions. And this always got me in trouble. Because I was like, curiosity always gets to Craig. I'm naturally mischievous, naturally rebellious. But this is how I learned. Like, when something didn't make sense to me, I had to question it. Yeah. Like, that's what business is all about. It's all about questioning something. Like, It starts off with the scientific method. I have this hypothesis, this idea.
Yes,
But
ideation.
Ideation. But then
Yes.
after I have the hypothesis, I have to go out into the real world and try to disprove that hypothesis, not try to prove myself right. Is my idea wrong? And then once I get that data, I have to look at what worked, what didn't, and why. Because I'm going to get three options. Either I'm going to get a green light, which means continue. I'm going to get a yellow light, which means, okay, maybe I need to restart this. It's inconclusive. Or I'm going to get a red light that I'm like, okay, this isn't it. But either way, I'm still going to have to go through that same process over and over. Learn, build, measure. Learn, build, measure. Hypothesize, test, analyze. However you want to take it. But when you can consistently do that and remove your ego from it and suffer an ego death, which is another popular chapter in my book, this is going to constantly lead to that innovation mindset. It's like the status quo can always be pushed. The status quo is only the status quo for now. And when you can innovate just a little bit, that's what value is. And people pay for value. So the more you innovate, the more people pay for value. It's the cornerstone of any entrepreneur in any business.
I like that. People do pay for value, although they may say they want to pay for price. But I think at the end of the day, people want value more than anything.
Can I interject real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. People buy when price is less than value. It's a simple formula. It's like, I'm hungry. My stomach's rattling. Prices are going up. Chick-fil-A back in 2019, when I moved back to Ohio, it was like $3.45 for a sandwich. I got a sandwich yesterday. I get one like every couple of weeks. It's $5.15 where I'm at.
Oh, heck yeah.
When prices keep going up. But it's like that stomach bubbling, me being hungry, me satiating my hunger is worth more than that $5. So anytime when value is higher than price, or perceived value is higher than price, that's when people buy, because like they're not losing the money. They're actually getting so much value. They're like, okay, the price is irrelevant. And when you can understand that, that's when business changes.
It's almost like you got to take the risk away in order for people to decide that.
Yes.
Speaking of risk, it is always risky when you decide to, I guess, go into business with other people, or when you decide to sit down with other people other than yourself. You know yourself, Craig. I know myself. But the fact of the matter is, relationships are key in any business, hands down. That's just it. What's your approach in developing strong, meaningful relationships in the entrepreneurial world as well as the corporate world? And how has this impacted any of your business ventures?
Well, it's just like you said, it's about like the courtship, the dating. If you can remove, a lot of the misconceptions, it takes time to get to know anyone, right? So you have to first invest into that other person, not with money, but with time. And before any type of contract, any deal can be made, there's always some type of trial period that should be done. Whether it's 90 days, 180 days, you really have to take time to get to know people, and especially under pressure when it comes to business. Because like pressure reveals a lot about people's character. There's a chapter in my book, that talks about the difference between character and reputation. Reputation is who people believe you are on the outside, but your character is who you are on the inside. Right. And oftentimes, reputation and character are not in alignment. What I want to know is, what is your character? Who are you really? And I can really only figure that out over periods of time, but over periods of time, like under pressure. And when you can see people, go through, hardships and be challenged by certain circumstances, the cream's going to rise to the crop, and then the crop's going to rise to the bottom.
Yeah,
but
always.
Even after that, you still need to have a good contract, something that's fair for both parties, something that has like a vesting schedule. Like, you're not going to get all this equity up front. You'll get it over time. Like, I need to see you work for it. You need to see me work for it. So, that this conversation could be one that could be extended for hours. but it just comes down to you investing time, quality time in somebody, seeing what they're made of, and then having like a smart contract that vests interest and equity over time. And when you can do that carefully, this will help you to build a mutually beneficial relationship with a potential business partner.
That makes sense. And for those who are aspiring to be an entrepreneur, and I don't know why anyone will want to put themselves through that type of depression, anxiety, heart failure, and all that other stuff that comes along with it. But many of us, we sign up for all of those different things. But what type of advice can you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? What's the single most important piece of advice you would offer someone that's starting their entrepreneurial journey today?
Well, it's a two-piece combo. Think big, start small, and don't quit your job. Those are my two biggest pieces of advice. Because the first part, think big, start small. Like, of course you want to envision this very successful $1 million, multi-six-figure business, whatever your number is. But understand that that's not going to happen overnight. And you're going to have to test out your business assumptions. You're going to have to start in that side hustle phase. That's okay, because every big business started small. Whether it's Amazon, Apple, Walmart, you name it, they all started off trying to figure out how to make $1 consistently.
That's right.
And then you do that because especially if you're employed, your employer is your first investor. And you want to make sure you build up that business or that side hustle to a point where it's generating enough profits or revenue to replace your income. And when you're in that, more comfortable place, you can then feel more comfortable to transition from, employed to self-employed. So think big, start small, don't quit your job.
I like that. Real quick, is there a certain amount of money? Let's say your income is $30,000, and what should your business be bringing in before you decide to take the leap?
Whatever it is that you're making, that coincides with the quality of life or lifestyle that you're living too. Because oftentimes when we go through this entrepreneurial process, we begin to discover that we're living above our means. And when you can understand, okay, what do you really need to survive? You don't need as much as you think you do, but you still need enough to cover those hard costs. What is your mortgage? What is your rent? What is your food bill? What is your electricity? What is your gas? What is your card note? Make sure you have enough income coming in to cover those hard costs and those basic essentials. And then anything from there on top of that, maybe you need to cut out that Netflix. Maybe you need to take out. No! Yeah. Maybe you need to reduce some stuff. But it's an interesting process because when you're kind of in those strained times of thinking about, okay, do I go all in on my business? It really helps you to get more analytical and calculated with what you really need versus what are the luxuries. And it depends. I'm not knocking down anybody's lifestyle. Some people need the bougie stuff. That's cool. Some people can do the ramen lifestyle. That's cool. But as long as you're covering those hard essential costs, you're fine.
Yeah, I need bougie oodles and noodles. How about that?
Yeah.
Can I get best of both worlds? Mm-hmm. Bougie oodles and noodles, man. We've been talking. We've been talking for almost 40 minutes, man. I've learned a lot. I'm taking notes right here. I can't wait to go back and watch this and listen to this again. But in your opinion, Craig, you have so much wisdom, so much experience, so much knowledge and expertise. In your opinion, what does it mean to be a champion from your POV?
I love that question because it's loaded. And me being an athlete at the core, it's okay, champions, they win. But what I've come to learn is that you can be a champion and still not have that trophy at the end of the day. To me, it's not about winning. It's just about not being defeated. And so I have this game I play in my mind that like I can, or maybe it's the semantics, because like I go back and forth with these two words. Like, what's the difference between a loss and a defeat?
Mm-hmm.
A defeat is when I don't win, but I don't give my best. Whereas like a loss is I don't win, but I gave my best. So I can suffer losses. I can't suffer a defeat.
No.
But irrespective of that, in both those situations, I'm not the quote unquote winner. But basically what I'm saying is like, as long as I show up to the best of my ability each day, I am a winner. I am a champion, because we're human. We can't give our 100% every day. You know, mm-hmm. I'm going through some family stuff right now, and maybe the best I can only give is 50% because I'm so drained. But if I give that full 50%, I'm a winner. But if I only gave, let's say, 5%, I just defeated myself.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's not about the quote unquote, okay, do I have the ring? Do I have the MVP? Do I have the recognition? It's an inside job. Success is an inside job. So as long as I'm showing up to the best of my ability every day, I'm a champion, whether I win or I lose.
Craig, I love it. Even if you have 50%, give 100% of that 50%.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Craig, where could our listeners and viewers connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm focusing mainly on LinkedIn right now because my website is undergoing some changes. I'm undergoing an evolution with my brand and where I'm taking stuff. So people can go to LinkedIn and look me up, Craig Chavis Jr. That's CRAIG. Craig Chavis, CHAVIS, Jr. JR. Look me up on LinkedIn, and that's the best place to connect with me right now while my website's undergoing some changes.
Well, Craig, this has been amazing. Champion Nation, I told you. Now you see why I was so excited. I told you, I could not wait to hear this. I have so many notes. I'm going to go back and listen to this podcast on loop on the way while I'm driving, just sitting in my office. This will be one of those podcasts that just stay on loop. There are so many nuggets here, so many nuggets that Craig shared with us. He shared with us his 4-step sequence, his 4-step solution. Your body does what the mind thinks. I'm just going to let that simmer right there. Hey, Champion Nation, have a champion day. Well, champion week. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, or share. Take care. Take care, Champion Nation. Bye. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you so much, Kayshawn.